They chased him down, punched him out, and then sat on his back, and he was an asthmatic, until he died. And I said, wait a second. My legal assistant came in and dropped a newspaper on my desk. She knew the two officers' names. And she said, you are going to want to read this. Front page. Now, I don't know how many of you remember the Meach Davis incident, but there were protests in Buffalo. Protests. And I believe to this day that if Meach Davis's death had been filmed, like George Floyd's death had been filmed a few months later, we in Buffalo would have been the epicenter of the George Floyd movement because of what happened to Meach Davis. But it wasn't filmed. These officers sat on his back until he didn't breathe anymore. 20, I believe, 5-year-old man, whom I never met. But I said to myself, wait a second. You know, the Buffalo News wrote a glowing article about one of these police officers. Oh, he's not your normal police officer. You know, he worked for the Common Council. He had 2 master's degrees. He worked for Buffalo. And I said, that's it. I'm going to tell the truth about this guy, even if it hurts my reputation. So I called Buffalo News and said, you want to hear the other side of the story about this guy? You want to hear why I think Meach Davis is dead? I think you got 2 thin-skinned police officers who decided Meach Davis disrespected them by running. And I think they chased him down, punched him out. And guess what? When the Attorney General's office looked into that incident, they concluded it was a homicide. They concluded it was a deliberate police-caused death, but they exonerated the 2 officers because they said, guess what? You heard this with George Floyd. Meach Davis had an asthma condition. Now, in fairness, he did. And I'm going to be objective and fair here for a moment. I don't know that I think those officers intended to kill Meach Davis. But through their conduct, their thin-skinned behavior when he ran from them, chasing him down and punching him out. So I decided, you know what, now I am going to sue. Not because I wanted any money, not because I wanted necessarily to avenge my First Amendment violation when I yelled, you know, turn on the headlights, a-hole, and they cited me, made me go to court and get rid of that bullshit charge. I wanted to do it to bring light to what had happened to Meach Davis. And I did that. And I did that. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals, one step away from the Supreme Court, wrote a 47-page decision in my case, basically finding a First Amendment violation by these officers and spreading all over the world the Buffalo police failure to respond to my complaint, failure to respond to my concerns, failure to train these officers. And in my view, you know, that is what led to the death of Meach Davis. So what did I do from there? I decided, you know what? I am going to go into civil rights. I am going to launch a practice. I am going to go after police officers behaving badly, police officers who frame people, police officers who pull people over without a warrant, police officers who break into people's house without a warrant, commit Fourth Amendment violations. I'm going to go after police officers who commit Eighth Amendment violations and prison guards. So I now have what I believe is the largest civil rights practice in Western New York. We don't do it as, most attorneys do this as a one-off, like they're solo practitioners or maybe 2 people, they take a case here and there. We've industrialized it. I've sued the city of Buffalo multiple times. I've sued multiple police officers, multiple police agencies for all kinds. A lot of them are Fourth Amendment violations. But, I mean, in the last month I sued Monroe County Sheriff's Office for 2 canine violations where they sicked their canine on a guy and had him, bite him out, without giving him warnings and everything else. So all sorts of excessive force cases, false imprisonment, malicious prosecution, illegal search and seizure, First Amendment violations. I've done some Second Amendment violations. I don't, as Peter indicated, I'm a libertarian. I don't take sides on whose rights are violated. I don't care whose rights are violated. I care that rights were violated. So that's where I come at it from a civil rights perspective. I've represented blacks, whites, Hispanics, Bengalis, you name it. If anybody has what I consider to be a legit civil rights complaint, I will bet that case and see if I want to take it. And, some people say I'm crazy because I'm suing all these police all the time. I figure, life's too short, right? And if there's nothing more precious to me as an American than my civil rights. People died for my civil rights, and we have the best system of rights in the world. We don't always enforce it perfectly, but if we did, that Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments, well, there are not too many places. There are no other places, let's be honest, in the world that have those rights. And if we don't have lawyers who stick up for those rights, like Peter and others, and there's not enough of us, then we don't have any rights at all, right? So that's my story. And so Hugh Davis, when I saw Hugh Davis, so Cheektowaga put edited versions of the body cam footage. We don't have everything, but in fairness, we have a lot. And I think they put that out there to kind of show, oh, well, Hugh Davis came out of his apartment with a knife, so we were justified in shooting him, using lethal force, and ultimately killing him. You know, and I just think they're misguided on that. That is true, and the officers had a right to protect themselves from their safety at that point. But you have to back up, and you have to look at them smashing down the door. You have to look at them smirking at each other as they deliberately cause a Fourth Amendment violation, which then led in one or two steps to the death of Hugh Davis. And they're trying to sweep it under the, you know, they're not going to discipline those officers for a clear Fourth Amendment violation. I'm telling you, when I do get appointed by the public administrator, I'm gonna ask on behalf of Hugh Davis's estate that they do an internal affairs investigation, and they're going to whitewash it. They're going to slide under the rug and say, all they're going to say is he came at us with a knife. I'm going to say, what about breaking down his door? If you don't go out of jurisdiction, go into Buffalo, out of Cheektowaga without a warrant, go to his apartment door, spend 15 minutes bashing on it until the panel falls in, he is not dead. He does not die in that incident. You may not get your arrest, but you know what? Go get your warrant. If you need to, get a forced entry warrant and go get Hugh Davis for whatever thing you want to arrest him for. But don't kill him. Don't orchestrate his killing by violating his Fourth Amendment rights and then shoot him, you know, in the hallway as he's coming out to protect his home. You know what his last words were? Who's at my door? Who's at my door? I don't know whether he was sleeping or where he was, how he came out from behind that door, but they bashed that door in, and then they reach into his apartment, which is a Fourth Amendment violation, and slide the door out of the way, and there is Hugh Davis. Oh, and they're surprised at that point. They didn't expect him to come or be there or answer. He's protecting his... If he had not come out of that apartment, do you know that when you have a Fourth Amendment violation, even with a police officer, you are entitled to protect your home against an illegal intrusion by police? Now, I've got to do a lot of research to figure out, because he comes out of his apartment with the knife, and that's when they shoot him. But if they had come in after him, he has a right to protect himself. It's not advisable. You don't want to get shot by police and then explain later how you had a right to defend yourself. But you have a right to defend your home, your castle, against government intrusion into your personal property. And I've handled many, many cases involving the Fourth Amendment, many, many warrantless searches. I even handled one sort of like this, where the police the door was kind of half ajar, and they kept knocking until it pushed open. Then they went in, then they framed a guy and lied about it. But guess what he had in his house? Surveillance cameras over in his house over his dining room table. So we caught them in lies. That was down in Gowanda. And a lot of these cases have been on the news. That you may have seen. Channel 4 has done a lot of cases, done a lot of my cases, and done a lot of news reports on some of the Fourth Amendment violations that I've had. Maybe some of you have seen the case of Bruce McNeil. A man who was pulled over by cops on the east side. His vehicle was searched without a warrant, without permission. They didn't find anything, but they left it in a tossed up condition. When he went to the, I believe it was C District, to lodge a complaint, they told they wouldn't take his complaint in violation of police procedures, and they said, you get out of here, and if you come back, we're going to charge you with possession. We charge you with possession. So he goes home, he doesn't take no for an answer. I got to give the guy credit. He goes home, he talks to his mother, and she says, that's ridiculous. We're going back down there. They go back down. It's a shift change, so it's a new lieutenant. The new lieutenant starts taking his complaint, and he starts telling her the details, and she says, wait a second. We told you if you came back, you were going to get hit with a drug charge. And the two officers who had also come off shift come out of the back room waving a baggie of crack cocaine. They said, guess what we found in our patrol vehicle after you were in it while we were searching your car? It had to be from you. And this man, to his credit, He had Herb Bremen as his defense attorney, which is a good start. He refused to settle. He refused to plea out. He said, test that bag for my DNA. You are not going to find it on me. That's not mine. You know it, and you framed me because you said you would. And he went to trial on those charges with Flynn as the DA. So they go full. They try to plea out. They're desperate to get this guy because they know it's a bullshit case. So Flynn, they take him all the way to trial. He wins. The judge dismisses the charges. So at that point, I get involved because I'm going to sue for this guy's violation for them framing him. And so I frame out a federal court Section 1983 civil rights complaint for the Fourth Amendment violation, multiple Fourth Amendment violations of the framing of him by the police. I catch the fact that they totally made up they never radioed in the stop. When they found the drugs, they faked the stop. They called dispatch, lied, told the dispatcher they were at one location. And then they did all that stuff. So I called out the DA. I said he should never have tried this case. And I put it in the papers. I say he should never have brought those charges. The cops were obviously lying. And if he'd spent 10 seconds on it, he would have realized that they framed this guy and tried to put him away, by the way, with a drug felony for a couple decades. It was felony weight, it was distribution weight cocaine that they had him on. So Flynn holds a press conference. And this is all over the news. You can see it if you go back to Channel 4. He's like calling me out for calling him out. Like, oh, it's a Niagara Falls leak that those guys framed, you know, this fellow Bruce McNeil, my client. So I go back and I spar with him, and I say to the guys at Channel 4, I said, go get a law professor who does criminal law and see what he thinks about Flynn prosecuting that case. So they got a guy out of Fordham, you know, good law school, professor there, kind of, you know, glasses and all that. He says, I think Mr. Flynn should understand that this is not the type of case that you prosecute. And there's all sorts of indication that the police officers are lying and the story doesn't make any sense and it seems to be a retaliation. So we go back and forth, and I'm just about to conclude a settlement on behalf of Mr. McNeil. If it goes through, we'll see if it doesn't. I don't care, I'll try the case. That the city, and I see that Control Board and Budget,
you got it.
Guess whose civil rights practice is costing the city millions of dollars every year now. I hit them for $1 million plus this year, and I'm going to hit them for $1 million again next year, and you know, it just keeps coming. And I'm telling you, if they don't understand to do the right thing and train the police officers, once I get right, then we're going to keep hitting them with damages until they scream for mercy and have a control board put in place, and maybe then they'll do something about their cops who are framing people. One last thing, I'll call a gentleman in the back. I hired an expert in that case, and he's an FBI guy, and he did a lot of community work. And I said, tell me about, he was here in Buffalo. I won't mention his name. He told me, hands down, City of Buffalo Police, hands down, the worst police department in the nation.
Wow.
He volunteered that to me. And I'll tell you what, I have handled a dozen cases against them now. Their internal affairs system is completely broken. The police union owns the mayor, and they have a completely and deliberately broken internal affairs department that will not discipline officers, even when you catch them red-handed. They will not only not be disciplined, they will be promoted. And if you go search for the Bruce McNeil case on Channel 4's website, WIVB, you will see me sparring with Flynn. You will see me going to bat for Mr. McNeil. You'll see Mr. McNeil being taunted by Buffalo police after he beat the charges. Oh, whatever happened with your charges that we falsified against you? He said, I'm not talking to you. Oh, yeah. Oh, they taunted him. It's part of the case. Sir, gentleman in the back had a question. And I appreciate you guys listening to me. I'm sorry if I went on for too long, but I get excited about this stuff. Go ahead, sir.
I was crying inside when you made mention of the fact that they have been paying out on these wrongful acts. We have $80 million lost out of our income, out of our tax base, paying off cops, paying for their misdeeds, without any sense of recourse at all. Not even an interest in recourse. We've been trying to push them to have a public kind of assessment through a control we call the
Civilian Review Board.
a review.
Yeah,
Review.
which went nowhere, yeah.
It's not ever going anywhere because of the point that you just raised. The police union, and they call it a union, I'll call it what it is, a mafia. Okay, a syndicate that has the control of every one of those political decisions being made in City Hall, in County Hall, in the White House. We are operating under a police state. Every one of those officers have sworn an oath to the blue line. Not the black line, not the red line, not the green line, to the blue line. And we are all victims. I'm happy to be amongst you today because this Davis case is a test case. It's a test case to determine whether we're on a plantation or a city.
I think that's well said. Let me just add one thing. So you mentioned the economics of it, the 80 million, the pressure. You know, look, Peter and I share something beyond a desire to do this kind of work, and that is that the only way this is going to change, this is not going to change by people pointing out police misconduct because they don't care. They're going to protect their own. What the only thing that is going to change it is verdicts and settlements that slowly squeeze the budget of the city of Buffalo so they notice. You know what they're asking me to do now? Take settlements and get paid over 2 years because they don't have any money. And that was my point launching the civil rights practice. I didn't go into it thinking, oh, I'm just going to bring some cases so I feel good about myself. So I'm going to bring cases that are going to hurt them. And I have an economics degree. Before I was a lawyer, I actually got an economics degree. And I know that the best way to impose change is to make it costly to do the wrong thing. So if you're going to have police officers who keep framing people, breaking and entering, beating them up, pulling them over without a warrant, violating their rights, charging them frivolously with stuff just to be a pain in the ass, well, guess what? You're going to be paying for that. And so you can go to the Common Council, and the attorneys of the Corporation Counsel's Office go to the Common Council all the time in my cases. They say, oh, we need some more money to settle this case. We need some more money to settle that case. And you know what? I know it squeezes the services that the city can provide, but that until they realize that their police are costing them these verdicts, they are not going to stop. And frankly, I don't think I've done enough damage yet.
Listen, the mayor was elected with 26,000 votes, 2,000 more than were cast when he was elected in the primary. They don't care about how much it costs us. As long as they're continuing to be reelected, sitting there throwing their hands up and costing us money, it's going to continue. We've been broke too long.
I hope we can make a difference, but I can tell you that taking a symbolic case here and there and feeling good about yourself for doing civil rights case, they don't give a crap about that. They have a little line item in their budget for miscellaneous police misconduct civil rights cases. And so I decided to make a big deal of them, you know?
$8.5 million a year. Over this past 10 years, it's come to $80 million, greater than the deficit.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be solvent without them.
Well, I wouldn't say we'd be solvent. They would find something else to waste the money on.
Well, perhaps. Maybe you're right. But if I could interject here, I happen to be on the Charter Revision Commission, okay? And this is a reversal of roles here, okay? It's involuntary servitude. I didn't apply to be on the Charter Revision Commission. I didn't have time to be on the Charter Revision Commission. I'm 81 years old. I'm only going to live for 7.5 more years, statistically, okay? There's other things I got on my table. Rasheed Wyatt, without notifying me, put me on Charter Revision Commission. I didn't even know it until somebody called up about a Buffalo News article. So this is a reversal. You see, a black man has got this white guy involuntarily serving on it. The Charter Revision Commission can do things about Civilian Review Board. We can put things on the ballot next November. All right? We have that authority. We don't have to ask the mayor, the Common Council, anything else. This is not like county Charter Revision. All right? We can directly put stuff up there. There are 13 members. One never showed up of the Charter Revision Commission, okay? As far as I can see, this Charter Revision Commission isn't going to do anything. And if you want to go live with that plan, I actually voted against giving them a budget the other day because they're worthless. And as far as this Charter Revision Commission should be dumped in and stop fooling around and wasting resources, it's very clear to me no matter what it is, there's not going to be any change. Unless you can get 6 more votes on the Charter Revision Commission for issues that you are interested in, that I'm interested in. Everybody who comes to a community meeting says, we want ranked choice voting on the ballot, okay? It's already been telegraphed by the powers that be that ain't gonna happen, okay? However, you get 6 more votes, we'll have 7, and it'll be on the referendum you'll get to vote on. And I mean, quite frankly, what I see is pathetic. I have in the past, 20 years ago, been on County Charter Revision, and we had an all-star crew. The people we have on this Charter Revision Commission, half of them are Moai from Easter Island, you know, they're stone statues. They just sit there, they do nothing. Okay, that's the reality. It would be nice to have you come to the public meetings. Oh, and we're running out of time, but we're meeting once a month.
Yeah.
Then why don't we meet once a week if we're running out of time? We've got to get something on the ballot by August 3rd of next year. We have to have language to the Board of Elections to put on the ballot for a referendum. I'm all in favor of a civilian review board. I'm all in favor of having that as a charter revision put on the ballot. Okay? There's 1 vote. Get me 6 more.
Let me say, yeah, we have to, I want to follow up on what Tony was saying about Jennifer Flannery.
Yes.
What's as you close, can you tell us more about that process and what happened next?
Yeah, and Avery, I'm not exactly an expert in it, but there's paperwork that needs to be filed with the Erie County surrogate judge, and that's Asa Mosey.
Okay.
And when she gets that paperwork, my understanding is she can approve Jen Flannery's appointment as the estate representative of Hugh Davis.
Okay.
Once she's appointed for his estate, it's almost as if she's a relative of him. Her job is to look out for his best interests and his estate's best interests. So she can then hire me. She has interviewed me pretty carefully to see if I have what she thinks are the right experience and credentials to represent Mr. Davis' estate. It's something we both take very, very seriously. She has expressed to me that I think that she thinks that I have the credentials to do it. So if she gets to a position where she can appoint an attorney, I believe she will appoint me based on my conversation with her. I've already sent her an engagement letter to formalize that. But I think she's waiting for the last final approval from the surrogate court.
Okay, thank you.
We're out of time, but is there any last question?
I've got questions with respect to Hugh Davis specifically. I've seen the video too many times, and it's not real clear to me exactly what happened, but it appeared to me that he was pulled out of the apartment by the police. There were some things that really stick in my throat, okay? There was an officer who was very fast with his 9mm. It was a confined space. I've never been in combat, and you know I'm not willing to judge on that. But you know, you have a situation there. Well, everybody had a taser, but the taser was over here, and the 9mm was over here, and they're all right-handed. Okay, I mean to me that says something. Okay, I'm going to go for the gun first, and I don't think that they gave any thought whatsoever to any kind of non-violent taking of this man. In fact, I'm fairly convinced from what they were saying, they didn't think he was home.
I don't think so.
That's why they bashed the door down.
And that's why they were kind of exposing themselves if he had
Yes.
had, gone on the other side of the door or something. But
The other thing is, I don't think they properly identified themselves as police. Because
Right.
at the beginning they said it was police, but then all the conversation after that said, you left something in your rental car. It
yeah.
sounded to me like they were from Avis. Now if Avis is pounding down my door and I can't see who's there, and they knock the door down onto me, I mean literally, they knocked the door onto this man. Maybe I'd respond too.
yeah, well, so the police, as we all know, can use lethal force if their lives are threatened. But what they can't do is create the circumstances where they need to use lethal force in the first place. And that's one of the things we're going to be researching. Yes, sir.
Now, in regards to what you just said, could they kind of be charged with criminal mischief in the second degree because that deals with the recklessness behavior of an individual that leads to a death of another person?
Well, you know, I think the answer is technically yes, but as a practical matter, we know the police officers are never charged. The most thing that would ever happen to them is an internal affairs investigation, which isn't going to happen here either, because Chief Duwage is all about getting out in front of this and controlling the narrative and saying, hey, he came at us with a knife. But it's like, okay, why did he come at you with a knife? And why were you breaking into his apartment? Where was your warrant? And why were you out of jurisdiction? Why did you break down his door with a smile on your face?
And that's on the record.
And I don't, look at, the law, and I told Peter this, you know, is you gotta sort out. Some jurisdictions say, hey, look, if you commit the Fourth Amendment violation, you're responsible for everything that happens after that. Some jurisdictions say, no, there could be a break in the causal chain, like maybe they broke in, but he came at him with a knife. But I'm like, it's my belief, this man is still alive.
Yes.
If they don't breach his Fourth Amendment rights, if they don't infringe on his civil rights, he's still alive. And whatever they wanted him for, you know, he would have had the opportunity to defend himself, but now he doesn't. And nobody's speaking for him until Peter got involved and got Jen Flannery involved and now me involved. So I'm hoping we can get some element of justice for him. And I'm telling you, I'm planning on going to the media with this and telling them the other side of the story, because Chief Duwage thinks this is buried, and I think they're wrong about it. All right, I don't want to overstay my welcome. Gentleman Charlie, thank you so much for having me.
Very welcome. We love that.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you, your justice for the work, bringing this, Tony Rupp. Continue to follow this. For anyone who has a complaint, you have forms that we're going to use now, so that this is how it begins.
Thank you.
In some instances, it's one case that represents hundreds. This is not the first, second, or 100th time that this kind of thing has happened. So our work is really before us. Michael Brown, thank you for that pointed observation too. So at this point, we're going to just sort of transition to some city issues here. Avery, if you kind of.
Well, as you know, that the city of Buffalo has a deficit that has to be addressed, and one of the issues that's going to be